You're listening to a 58 Ember production.
Welcome to Sky Talkers. Here are your hosts, Charlotte and Caitlin.
Hello, and welcome to Sky Talkers. I'm your host, Charlotte.
Hey, everyone. I'm your other host, Caitlin, and welcome to this episode where we have some roundtable interviews to bring you from the cast and crew of Skeleton Crew. And guys, this was so much fun. These ones.
It's so fun.
And
we
really-
just finished, so
really,
we're
I'm talking
kind
about
of
the
like
kids.
buzzing.
I'm really talking about the kids. We had two roundtables today. The first one was with the executive producers, showrunner, directors, writers, John Watts and Chris Ford. And that was great. That was good. That was fun.
It was amazing. It was great. They were so gracious, and it was great. But obviously, we're very, very excited to talk to the kids, the actual skeleton crew. You know,
you say we were excited. We were so nervous to talk.
I was nervous. Yeah, I was nervous. But since we're just coming off the interview, we just finished it. When we're recording this now, we're like, oh my gosh, they were so funny, and they are so much like their characters, guys.
Crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. So we literally just finished the interviews with the four kids, and when you go into these roundtable interviews, they're on Zoom, right? And so they have you in like a little waiting room, and then they take you into the Zoom breakout room with with whoever you're interviewing. And so it takes a minute for everyone to load in and for the cameras to all turn on and all that stuff. And all the kids, every time someone new's camera turned on, they would be like, oh my gosh, someone else, a new person, another person. Wow, one more. I don't know if we'll get that in the recording that we get for these, but it was very funny, and they were all together, and they were just so cute and fun and had so much energy and really answered all of the questions so well, and I would say so intentionally too. It was a really great, fun conversation.
Yeah, it was awesome. And also talking to John Watts and Chris Ford was so great. I loved hearing about their process and everything. So we'll start with the interview with John Watts and Chris Ford, and then we'll move on to our roundtable interview with Ravi Cabot-Conyers, Kiera Armstrong, Robert Timothy Smith, and Kyriana Kratter, who all play respectively Wim, Fern, Neel, and KB. So without further ado, let's get started.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
Hi, I'm Caitlin from Sky Talker. So great to talk to you both today.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. You guys have talked about how this show is about kids, but it's not just for kids, and that a show like Skeleton Crew takes its kids and their stories seriously. Why is it important to take these young characters' stories seriously?
I remember being 10 years old and really wanting everyone to take me seriously. So I guess I've never dropped that.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars is already this fantasy land, world, universe, galaxy. And we wanted the kids to just feel real, like actual kids. And part of that is just that if they're in danger, they're actually in danger. They're not it's not a team of superhero kids. So, we think that when kids are in danger, it's really riveting for people of all ages.
Yeah. And it's important for me to not look down on kids. I want to be able to take them seriously, take their perspective seriously, and to tell this story from through their eyes. It really, for us, really opened up a lot of doors to the storytelling as well. It made the Star Wars galaxy feel completely new and fresh again.
Hi, this is Alex from Star Wars Explained. So, hi. The kids are from a very suburban-inspired homeworld, and that's a new and unique environment for Star Wars. So, what challenges did you run into translating a more familiar aesthetic into the Star Wars setting?
I mean, we feel like a lot of Star Wars is already pulling familiar aesthetics and recreating it into an alien, planet. Coruscant isn't like some weird alien city where the buildings are made out of stalactites or something. It looks like New York.
Yeah.
Just on a different scale.
Yeah.
And we just really felt strongly that as a story point, to make it clear that these kids were coming from a place of feeling wistful and kind of that they wanted more, the way that we felt when we were kids, and we wanted to stop doing our homework and go outside and
it's that longing for adventure.
Look for an adventure. Yeah. that we felt like it would be really, really clear. I mean, we were talking about how Doug Chiang's designs are always so good because they are really fast reads. You know, you see the silhouette of something and you feel like you know so much about it. And so much of that comes from pulling from our real world. And, you know, if this certain planet feels a little more American, because that's the thing, is we think it probably is actually more American than Earth. Because like, you know, there's deserts and things
If
on
you grew
Earth.
up in a desert,
Yeah.
Tatooine looks like.
Exactly. But that I don't know, that
there's like a bit of an American Graffiti reference as well too.
Right.
I mean, we started talking about it to Lucasfilm and Doug Chiang and the whole design team over there, just sort of starting from an emotional perspective of like, how do you capture that feeling of like you're in a safe environment, but you're longing for adventure?
Hello, we're Kerwin and Keith of Father Son Galaxy.
Congratulations on the new series, and we really enjoyed the episodes. This question is for both Mr. Watts and Mr. Ford. Why did you choose to set the story after the fall of the Empire and during the rise of the Republic?
Great question.
Yeah, I mean, basically, because the kids were going to get lost in the galaxy, we kind of wanted to find a time that would be the worst for them. So, you know, even if the Empire was around, and maybe there was more of like a functioning government or something. But, you know, obviously the New Republic is around, but it's kind of still trying to get its act together. And we felt like we could interpret this part of the timeline as being a little bit more chaotic, maybe a little more lawless. So we have these pirates that are kind of ascendant, and it was just a fun time for the kids to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And then also we were working so closely with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who had been developing so much in that same time period, and so we were able to like trade, you know,
piggyback off of some of the things that they had already been exploring and designing. So the short answer is like it's the absolute worst time for the kids to get lost in the galaxy, which is great for the story.
Hi, Chris and John. I'm John from the Resistance broadcast. Congratulations, first off.
Thanks.
So after tackling the pressure of making movies for a generationally beloved character like Spider-Man, what did you learn from that experience and bring with you to Star Wars? And did it help your confidence in your decision-making making Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I probably learned from making Spider-Man movies is like you just have to try to be the biggest fan that you can be, and let that guide the decisions that you make and start to trust your own spidey sense.
Nicely done.
But this was a completely new challenge because Peter Parker is an established character. You know, we've seen movies about Peter Parker. There's so many comics about Peter Parker. For this one, it's just the world that we've been given. And that's like a very wide open place to be operating. And we're creating our own characters within that. So fortunately, having, you know, Dave and John there as sort of like a big safety net underneath you, like makes you feel like you have the freedom to sort of run with your ideas, and they'll let you know if you've veered too far off course.
Hi, Chris and John. This is Charlotte from Sky Talkers. We've really loved the series, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you.
Sort of a non-serious question. We wanted to ask you about the planet name At-Aden. Is this a play on the debate of how to pronounce AT-AT or At-Aden or At-At?
Yeah, I mean, it was not conscious, but I
think it probably has developed out of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the names you're not exactly sure what part of your brain they came from.
Yeah.
I think you've just solved it. This is more like therapy. Like, wow, you're right.
Yeah.
Also, the way Jod would pronounce his what was great was At-Aten was always written, and then you'd hear how other people would say it out loud, and then it was always like everyone always had a different interpretation until we had to like say no, it's At-Aten.
But that was cool because
like, At-Aten.
Yeah, I remember like hearing some kind of interview with George Lucas where he would say that too, like, oh, different people can pronounce things different ways. It's a big galaxy, and yeah.
So you just mentioned being kind of the biggest fan you could be when you're creating stories like this, and you have included some very fun nods to some of the earliest Star Wars stories after A New Hope. And so I'm curious what Star Wars stories shaped your personal love of Star Wars.
I mean, when I was a kid, you know, I was the age where my exposure was just watching them on VHS, and I also had the Ewok Adventures taped off of TV. And to my eye, they were the same they're all just part of the same thing. So, I mean, I was definitely a huge fan of those.
He also grew up in Marin, like right over the hill from Skywalker Ranch. So like literally over the hill behind his house, like was Star Wars. So you were very like exposed to Star Wars at a very high rate at an early age.
Yeah, it was like a local project.
Yeah,
but at the same time, still seemingly so distant. And like when we were kids, we thought we could, go off and walk through those hills and like sneak onto Skywalker Ranch somehow, but we never made it that far.
My first big exposure to Star Wars was like the games. Like I would play TIE Fighter and X-Wing, like more than the movies because the special editions weren't released until 97. So like I weirdly entered into, like I knew about Star Wars, but we weren't a Star Wars family like you.
Yeah.
So like I entered from like a completely
So you started playing the game, then when you watched the movie, you were like, what is he doing? He's balancing his shields all wrong.
Yeah. I was thinking about the wrong thing.
Yes, hello, John and Chris.
Hi.
How many child actors did you audition for the 4 major roles? And what unique qualities did Ravi, Ryan, Robert, and Kyriana bring to their roles that made them stand out from the others?
We auditioned so many kids, like hundreds of kids.
And our casting director saw even more.
We probably saw hundreds, and our casting director probably saw like thousands. Like it was crazy, and it's a very weird feeling because you see so many kids that are great, that are like great actors, great performers that could do it, but you have to have the patience to sort of wait for the kid that truly embodies the character to walk through the door.
Yeah, like you're waiting for the actual character to walk in.
Yeah.
Because they're kids and you want them to just be themselves, not have to put on a character.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to hang out with Richard Donner like a couple weeks before he died, actually. And he was talking to me about Goonies and casting the Goonies, and he said, when you're casting kids, you don't cast kids to play a role, you cast kids because of who they are. And then he told me a story about like a Goonies reunion, and he was like, everyone, it was like 20 years later, he was like, they were all exactly the same as they were when they were kids. Like they broke off into the same groups, they were telling the same stories, like they were playing the same pranks that they did when they were kids. So I really took that to heart. And it just means you have to be really patient and like wait for the perfect person to walk into the room.
So with Skeleton Crew being a callback to those 80s coming-of-age films, Amblin, Jude Law being no stranger to Spielberg, having worked with him in AI,
Gigolo
playing
Joe.
a whimsical character there. Did you borrow from any classic characters over time in shaping Jod for Skeleton Crew, or was he a complete organic thing from your imaginations?
The weirdest connection that we've put together in doing these interviews over the past 2 days is like, we would think a lot about, in the way that George would be inspired by, samurai movies or World War II movies for the original trilogy. Like, we went back to a bunch of old, like, pirate movies and pirate serials. And
from, like, the 30s.
From the 30s, like the Seahawk and
Captain
Blood. And Errol Flynn was in a lot of them. And Jude played Errol Flynn in The Aviator. So it's like Jude was already a space pirate in Star Wars, and we just had to get him out of retirement. That's what it felt like.
But we also really wanted the character to feel like richly, like he's from so many stories. Like
he's lived a lot of lives.
Because the kids are like brand new and naive, and we wanted him to feel like maybe someone who hasn't seen a bunch of Star Wars things would think that he was a character from the comics or something, that he's a reference. And we wanted him to feel like he had all these past experiences, and so he has like different aliases, and he's been around the galaxy so many times.
Yeah, like one of his names, Crimson Jack, is from a Star Wars comic.
Yeah, and he's just like, I don't know, because you were saying that when you watched those special editions, you were also watching Gattaca for the first time and getting introduced to Jude Law. So it was kind of like he just felt like he'd had already been in Star Wars.
Yeah, something in like our brains had already created this character, and he was already played by Jude Law. We just had to get him to say yes.
And luckily, he was a fan.
Yeah, and Jude's a huge Star Wars fan. I don't know.
I think he was. I don't know. Waiting for the right role for him to be able to finally do it.
Okay, so for our last question, Mick Giacchino created the score for Skeleton Crew. How important was the music in setting the tone for the show?
I mean, it's essential, and it's a really funny thing when you're trying out temp music, when you're editing. before you have the actual score recorded. Like, if you put the wrong music on a scene, you've ruined the scene. Like, you've seen I love the clips where you're watching Star Wars without any music, and it's just the sound. And like, especially in Star Wars, like, music really elevates it and takes it to another place. So to be able to work with Mick, I've been working with his dad on all the Spider-Man movies and have, knew how great Mick was, and this was just like such a fantastic opportunity for him to finally show off what he can do. Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, and here is our roundtable interview with the skeleton crew themselves, Ravi, Ryan, Robert, and Kyriana.
Hi, guys. So good to meet you.
Hello.
I'm Charlotte from Sky Talkers. We loved the show so much, and we were wondering, how are you each alike and different from your characters?
So Neil's kind of more of a scared person. I would say I'm definitely more brave. I love to do a lot more stuff than him. I bungee jump. I like to, yeah. I think once I'm 18, I want to skydive, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I found so many familiar things between me and my character, and it was a lot of fun. I love his adventurous side. I would say I'm a little bit adventurous. I love doing all this fun stuff. I feel like he is kind of having a really hard time, and I feel for him. But I would say that
But you're just living
I'm
on
happy
cloud
most of the
nine.
time. I would say I'm happy-go-lucky most of the time. No, but I loved finding familiar things between me and my character and implementing some of my qualities into my character.
I think at the time and the age that we shot Skeleton Crew, we were all 12 to 13. And with our characters, we all kind of were in this transitionary period where we're not a kid anymore and we're not a teenager and we're trying to figure out who we are. And I felt like at the same time when I was filming Fern, I was going through the same thing as her, and kind of growing up with her in that sense.
Yeah, I feel like me and my character were pretty similar because Chris Ford and John Watts, they gave me the creative freedom to kind of create the character, and I used things outside other things, but I also used some of myself, and I put myself into that character. But I have to say, she's very straightforward, and she just most of the time she just says exactly what she's thinking and how we need to get home, and she doesn't joke around as much as I do in real life. So I do joking around and laughing.
Okay.
Hi, this is Keith and Kerwin of Father Son Galaxy.
Hey.
Hi.
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 Uh-oh.
Hi.
Oops.
The concept of Skeleton Crew is based on Amblin films of the 1980s. Were you asked to watch any of the films? And if so, which ones did you see?
Yeah.
We all together watched E.T. and Goonies. And we also, I think we all did probably do a little movie marathon on our own.
Yeah, I watched Back to the Future, and that was one of the first days we met, but we watched it all together.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching those in preparation, and I had already watched them before Skeleton Crew, and it was a lot of fun playing into those homages to the 80s Amblin Goonies ET style that is shown in Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, they were some of my favorite movies my entire life. I've loved E.T., loved Goonies, and I love Stand By Me. We watched Goonies, E.T. together, which was really fun production. Set up this little space that we got to a little movie area, and we watched it all together. It was
room.
in our summer room.
Yeah. With the little bean bags and
Yeah,
popcorn and chips.
bean bags.
Yeah. We had our masks on, but it was fun.
A question: Is that a kid behind you? A child?
That's quite the question.
Yes, this is my son.
Hello.
Yeah,
Do you have a question?
he's
for
about
him?
your age.
He needs to ask us a question. All right. He needs to be our interviewer. Ask us a question.
Ask us a question.
Okay.
I agree.
Fine.
Next is John.
You mean right now?
Maybe the next question. Maybe the next go around.
Yeah.
Yep.
First of all, congratulations to the four of you. The show is fantastic. I have kids. They're going to absolutely love it. So thank you for telling a story from the point of view of children. My question, so George Lucas always said he made Star Wars for kids, 12-year-olds, the age you were when you made this. And he said one of the most important things to focus on is friendship. So I wanted to ask each of you, without giving away spoilers, of course, don't want to get you guys in trouble or anything like that, what would you say makes your character a good friend?
I think he's loyal. I think he is kind, and I think he's just there for you when you're at your lowest point. Which I really dig about Neel.
To me, when they seem, or not to me, but when they seem, it's sometimes like he's taking a lot of risks and putting his friends in jeopardy sometimes. But really, it's really just a cry for attention. I feel like his dad isn't around much and he doesn't have a mom. So he's going through a lot and it's so thanks, man. And it's so intense and the circumstances are it's really high stakes and yeah, but I do think what I love about Wim is that he really genuinely he cares about his friends and family and the people he loves and he really really just wants everybody safe and everybody to have a good time and safety is his main priority for the people he loves.
Yeah, I think Fern has some real leadership instincts, and she's like a natural fighter. And instinctually, I guess she like kind of takes like this position of being the leader of this group, and taking the initiative. Um, yeah, that's Fern.
Fair enough.
I think what makes my character a good friend is that, she's very resourceful and thoughtful, and I feel like you can kind of rely on her in like times of danger. Like, she'll figure it out and get it done, which I love about her. And she also tries her best to be a good friend to everyone.
The girls do get it done.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi all, my name is Alex from Star Wars Explained. So Star Wars is very much a generational thing. People grow up with the original trilogies or the prequels or the sequels. So I'm very curious, how did all of you find Star Wars? What was your introduction to the franchise?
Yeah, my initial introduction was through my dad. He's probably one of the biggest Star Wars fanatics you will ever meet, and he showed me A New Hope, and I think he watched A New Hope in theaters with his brother when he was little. So it's so fun that the legacy gets passed down like this through generations, and Star Wars really is timeless, and that's what I find so much fun about it, and that's what I found so much fun about A New Hope. And what really stood out to me was Luke Skywalker. I loved watching him run around with a lightsaber, and Mark Hamill's performance is so iconic. And yeah, Star Wars has been a pretty big part of my life.
Yeah, I was also introduced to Star Wars by my dad, but I also shared it with like my brothers and my mom, and we all got to watch it together, A New Hope. But we also watched like all the other movies together. I was pretty young. I was like 5 years old, but I remember it all because it's amazing. Star Wars is so cool, and I love Princess Leia. I dressed up her for Halloween with the sheet and the space buns, of course. And I love Star Wars, and it's always been something like really close to me.
Well, I've been a Star Wars fan for as long as I can remember. Like they said, it's something like I shared with my dad, and he saw it in theaters and kind of grew up with it. So I think especially for him, me being a part of this and like coming to set is like big for both of us. Um, and it's been such an honor, and I've always been a fan. I've had lightsaber fights with my brother. I think I also dressed up as Leo. It's such a great franchise and so iconic, and an honor to be a part of.
Yeah, I was introduced to Star Wars by my dad. Yeah, and it was A New Hope, and I just remember even before that, I would see the weapons, the lightsabers, the blasters, awesome. Yeah, all the characters too, Darth, Luke.
Which Darth?
Darth Jar Jar. Anyway, and I just remember he showed me A New Hope, and I just remember falling in love with it. I thought it was like an amazing story, and I just remember going on to see the originals and just being like, wow, these are like really good. And yeah, I loved them.
Hi, guys. I'm Caitlin, also from Sky Talkers. It's so great to talk to you all today. The show is so great. So, all of the sets and details on the show look absolutely incredible. Was there anything you wanted to take home with you?
Everything.
Everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was all so cool, and so many of the sets were practical. So it really was like you could take anything home. Like you could pick a piece of the wall off and take it home. But I would have loved to take home some. There may have been some credits involved. Would have been fun to take home some of those. I may or may not have gotten to take home my wardrobe. But
Yes, I got one set of Fern's jacket, and I was really excited. But other than that, maybe her speeder bike. I feel like that would be really neat.
Can I say I would like to take home the ship?
Yeah, that's real.
I would take home the ship, but for costume, I would really love to take home like my Oggs and my visor. I feel like that'd be so fun to just walk around with that. And
I wish they let
for Halloween.
I would be so scary, like running into KBO. Sorry.
I wish that they would I wish that they let us have like a little sleepover in the ship. That would be really fun. But
Star Wars sleepover.
Yes.
With the kids of
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew.
Can we like binge the Star Wars?
Yeah.
Movies?
Oh my
That'd
gosh.
be so
No,
fun.
but if I could take home one thing, but I almost wouldn't want to, but at the same time I would. So for my suit, I also get to have like my latex like gloves that are like my hands in the show, and they were kind of disgusting because like they would have to spray my hand with water, they'd have to spray the glove with like a lot of water, and they'd be really like wet, and I'd get in there, but that sounds a little strange, but that's how it would happen.
That's kind of
And if I could, I just kind of wish I could take like a pair of my gloves home.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how you told me that I should ask the question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask the question.
Here we go.
Yeah. So you guys all have great chemistry. What did you enjoy most about working on a Star Wars project?
Can I start?
Yeah.
I think what I enjoyed most was just seeing some of the creatures around. Like I saw a Jawa and I almost pooped myself because I was like, that is so cool. Like literally, I almost flipped out, man. I did flip out. I was like, oh my. And then yeah, I was just like, wow, that is awesome. But I just remember seeing all the other like creatures and being like, whoa, that dude's creepy. And then yeah, I mean I would always check up on them too. I was like, hey, how are you doing? You hot? And I was like, and they were like, yeah, I'm pretty hot. And I was like, I am too, metaphorically and literally. Fine. Anyway,
That was
and I just remember that was just kind of like the coolest thing about doing that was just seeing some of the creatures and just seeing how big they were.
I loved. Sorry. That was a great answer, Robbie.
You're welcome.
I loved playing a character from Star Wars. I thought that was really fun. I've never done anything. I've never played a Star Wars character before, so of course it was really fun to go deep dive into my character and find familiar things between me and my character. And I love seeing all these. There are so many unique sets. The practicality of them were so awesome. The props were awesome too. We got some really awesome props, like the speeder bike, and like you mentioned, and yeah, it was all really cool. The sets, oh my gosh, sets are amazing.
I have many favorite parts about working on Star Wars, but I think one highlight was that I was on set one day and I saw this giant man walking around, and his face looked very familiar, and I was fangirling because I was like, who is this? I've seen him in a previous series I've seen, and I realized he's one of my favorite characters from one of my favorite shows, and I took a photo with him on our little secret phone, and
Yeah, we have these phones
Yeah.
which we can take pictures of. I hope they send us the photo.
yeah, I took
weren't
a
able to-
selfie with him. Sorry.
We weren't able to take photos on set because
Mhm.
obviously it's very comfortable.
Confidential. I'm not
But-
trying to get sued here, guys.
Oh, really? I thought you were.
There were so many cool parts. I think the sets were amazing, and especially the volume was so cool.
Yeah.
It would move with you, the world around you. You would be immersed. In
Yeah, I'd be
this
lying if
so
me and Robbie
immersive.
didn't just run into it one time.
Oh, I did. I did
Yeah,
run
we
into the
both
volume
did.
one time.
It-
It was so realistic. We both were running towards it. We
We're both-
stepped off the edge of the stage and almost
Yeah,
walked right
boom.
into it.
We're both kind of dumbos. You gotta kind of realize that about us, you know.
Speak for yourself. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right, those were our roundtable interviews. I hope you guys enjoyed them. Also, I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but if you've listened to our discussion of episodes 1 and 2 of Skeleton Crew, you know we talked about these roundtables and the questions we were going to ask. And we did end up asking about the AT-AT at Addin. And I think it was such a fun answer. I'm so glad we actually asked that question.
It was a lot of working up to do. When we do these things, I want everyone to know, we think that we'll be able to ask one question in these roundtable interviews. So it's always, what's the first question that we're going to ask? Because that's the star question, right?
One and done.
And then we have other ones, but we usually do about 10 to 15 questions, sometimes less, sometimes more than that, just to have in our back pocket. We're always bouncing ideas off of each other. We're talking to each other about this for days before. And so we were like, all right, maybe we'll ask this one question about Addin. And it's not a question that we would usually ask since we only get a couple questions, but we went for it. So I'm really happy about it.
It was a game time
And the
decision.
answer was so interesting.
Yeah, it was a game time decision by Charlotte. She was going to ask another one. And then she goes, I think I'm going to ask the Addin one. And I was like, yay, good. I want to know the answer.
Yeah. And we got an answer. So
yeah,
again, I don't know when you're listening to this or when this will go live, but that will be in our conversation if it's live before that discussion comes up.
Yeah. So listen for it then or listen for it now, whichever.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was such a fun conversation. I'm so excited for these kids and for the journeys we're going to see them go on for the rest of Skeleton Crew. And these actors clearly have such a great handle on their characters in this show and their dynamic with each other. And it's just so fun. I'm so excited to watch more of them. But thank you guys so much for listening. We would love to know what you thought. You can find us on Twitter/X at SkyTalkersPod or our personal handles. Charlotte's is at Crarity and mine is at Caitlin Plesher. We also have our website, skytalkers.com, our TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, email, all good places to find us. And if you have a couple seconds and would like to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it would really help other people find our show. And if you're interested in more ways to support us and how to get involved in our wonderful Discord community as Skeleton Crew is alive and airing, you can head on over to our Patreon and check out our reward tiers there.
Saying as Skeleton Crew is alive is funny. Skeleton alive, whatever.
No, I see what you're saying. That didn't even
yeah. There was a wordplay happening. There's nothing to do with the story, but it was kind of funny. I want to say a huge thank you to these patrons: Emma, Jose, Justin, Allison, Ira, Linda, BB Nate, Madison, Aubrey, Charlotte, Tim, Colin, Stefan, Koval, Patrick, Another Skywalker, James, Jeff, Kate, Anna, Maggie, Kelly, Molly, Paul, and Colton. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
This has been a 58 Ember production. For more shows, please visit the 58 Ember channel, 58ember.com, or find us at 58 Ember Media on socials.